What's going on, y'all? It's Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B, and welcome to another episode of the Rugged Edge Survival Guide, a Premio podcast where we dive into all of the major technologies and trends that are shaping the wider world of edge computing at the rugged edge. We're looking forward to another great conversation today. We have some thought leadership lined up and some analysis of an upcoming event that's sure to set the tone for the industry for the rest of the year. But before we get into it, make sure you're heading to our website, premioinc.com. Again, that's Premio Inc. Inc.com for more information on our solutions and services, and of course, to tap into previous episodes of the Rugged Edge Survival Guide. If you missed some of our end of year content from 2024, you may have missed an exclusive interview with Santa himself. So you don't want to miss that. Make sure you go check out that content. And of course, more product deep dives, roundtables, and analyses on the big trends shaping edge computing today. All right, folks. Let's get into the meat of the episode. Today, we are diving deep into the future of AI at the edge, and we're giving a special focus to Nvidia GTC 2025, which is coming up March 17th. If you're out of the loop, which I imagine most of y'all aren't, because this is a pretty big deal. One of the biggest events shaping the larger space is Nvidia GTC 2025. This is a global gathering of AI computing leaders that are going to define what's next in everything from accelerated computing to edge intelligence to autonomous technologies. And as AI is becoming more decentralized and decision-making is shifting closer to the source of data for a variety of different use cases, right? Rugged edge computing is playing a pivotal role in making real-time AI not just possible, but scalable and reliable. So we wanted to pose the question, with GTC around the corner, what's driving the next wave of edge AI advancements? What challenges still need to be solved? And how is the industry evolving to meet some of these needs, right? And we also want to make sure that you, our audience, understand where Premio is playing a role, how it's positioning itself in some of these evolutions that are putting more pressure on edge computing to meet the demands of today, right? Which involve a lot of computing power for edge AI processes and workflows. So to break it all down, we're going to be joined today by Mr. Dustin Seetoo, VP of Product Marketing at Premio, and a consistent guest here on the podcast. And especially as Premio prepares to showcase some of its latest innovations at GTC, we're going to implore the impact of their industrial grade x86 and Jetson power solutions, for example. We're going to discuss bigger picture key market trends that are shaping the future of AI and edge AI computing needs. And we're going to offer some tangible and practical advice on how businesses can harness the power of edge computing for smarter and faster decision making. So let's talk GTC. Let's talk edge AI processing and computing. Let's talk big market trends. I'm pleased to welcome back Dustin Seetoo, VP of Product Marketing at Premio. Dustin, welcome to the program. How you doing, man?
I'm doing well. I'm glad to be back. Ready to discuss kind of the ongoing trends and why GTC is so important for Premio.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a lot lined up here today. We're going to be breaking down again some of your own analysis on the importance of this show. But of course, that's only the scene set. We're then going to get into some of the specific trends that are shaping edge AI. And then again, how Premio is positioning itself in this evolving industry and how your solutions are both responding to some of the market needs of the time, as well as setting the standard for how to deal with some of the most intensive edge AI processing use cases that are out there and on the horizon. So let's start with GTC. So I know y'all are attending Nvidia GTC 2025 this year. This is your first year at the show. But even more generally, beyond Premio, why is this such an important event for the industry? Give us your analysis and what's making y'all excited about this specific event and the discussions that hopefully are going to flourish on the show floor.
Yeah, so NVIDIA is driving GTC. It's their own event. And kind of what they've defined as why it's important is where AI happens. If you look at kind of that statement of where AI happens, I think the leading trend for why this industry event is so important is to really drive home the backbone of AI technology. And what this does is that this brings the innovation in terms of NVIDIA's technology, most importantly, but how NVIDIA's technology is powering the ecosystem to develop their solutions to drive home the applications of what AI is. And AI, if you kind of break that down in a very simple form, is machine learning that has been trained on large amounts of data sets. And in those data sets, you are putting those into compute resources where you're able to do training to make the model more intelligent. And a lot of that hardware backbone relies on NVIDIA technology, right? GPU technology, what they're doing there, everything in their hardware silicon and in their GPU design enables us as a hardware OEM system builder and compute to deliver a computer for the rugged edge to kind of do the processing for these new applications.
So obviously at GTC, Edge AI is going to be a huge point of conversation. Almost every use case where edge computing is being put to work, whether we're talking automotive, industrial needs, smart city deployments, all of these are increasingly gathering more data and having to make more real-time decisions at the edge. So naturally, Edge AI is going to have a leading role in discussion. And of course, understanding the infrastructure that's going to make Edge AI possible is going to be a key focus at GTC. I'm curious what you're hoping to add to the discussion, right? Where is Premio putting its emphasis at GTC? Where are you hoping to help guide some of the thought leadership and some of the action-oriented discussion at NVIDIA GTC 2025?
Yeah, so how I want to kind of paint that picture and why Premio is so important for GTC and our solutions, most importantly, is how it relates to edge compute. A lot of what we've kind of coined and what we've defined, if you followed our journey, kind of ties into where the compute architecture is deployed and why that's important to deliver the real-time processing. So if you kind of go back to our Rugged Edge webinar, the product marketing team, we've defined how we're positioned in rugged edge computing in what's called the edge continuum. In that edge continuum, basically think about how data is created, how data is processed, how data is leveraging that data to run some type of inference model. Also can communicate back and forth into the cloud to make the model a lot smarter. But within where Premio is positioned with our products that leverage GPU technology, we kind of shift away from kind of the cloud into the edge. And in the edge, what we've defined are three key buckets that are extremely important for our computers to play into. So for example, a lot of our products and computing products go into the industrial edge. This industrial edge can be in areas where they're a little bit more controlled, but the environment is not so stable. And from there, you still need the performance power in a ruggedized box to sit closer to the IoT sensor. Second, as you move farther out into more remote environments, think remote, it could be outdoors, it can be a mobile moving type of vehicle, an AGV, some type of robotics. Smart cities, these environments are very unstable. So you need to make sure to deliver all the computing architecture in a reliable form factor. And then the third bucket that we defined is the specialized edge. It's specialized because these environments have specific certifications that allow for the safety and reliability of the product to actually work in mission critical environments. So everything from your standard certifications for railway, UL for safety, these are the certifications that are driven by standards to allow our computers to succeed in the market, specifically at the edge.
Before we dig a little deeper into Premio's presence at the show and some of the key products you're going to be showcasing as well, I want to make sure we understand the market trends and the tech trends at play here. Because obviously they are informing y'all's position in the market and how you are further developing your unique edge computing solutions. So let's talk about some of these bigger movements in the industry. Beyond just the key trends that are shaping the future of AI and edge computing, right? A lot of these are market related, industry related, downstream from specific operational or efficiency challenges that some of the various markets I mentioned before might have. I want to get your thoughts on the unique challenges of deploying AI at the edge today, right? What are some of the limitations structurally and technology-wise that you see dictating the deployment of and the proper use of edge AI? And why do you see these as being major obstacles? And what are some of the ways you hope to help overcome them, both with your discussions at GTC and just generally with where Premio is positioning itself in the market?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So as an OEM compute vendor that pays attention to not only our customer needs, we really have to design a industrial grade computer with some core principles that we look at, and that is broken down into kind of a performance to cost ratio. Why I believe that's extremely important, specifically in technology, is you need to pay attention where the market is growing. You need to pay attention to where the demand is. You can engineer something that has the best technology with the fastest, latest speeds, the lowest latency. But essentially, where's the majority of the market kind of moving? And how we pay attention to that is really kind of leveraging, number one, the trends, but most importantly, kind of paying attention to what the processing technology is leading into. So a good example of this is where AI is going. I think if you kind of break out what AI is, and especially edge AI, let's kind of segment that into what currently AI is and how that is being trained. So AI, right, is a lot of different data sets that are moving into a resource-intensive data center that's being trained. And a good example of this would be these large language models. If you're familiar, ChatGPT, Google's Gemini, Meta's Llama. Even yesterday was pretty recent news. It's pretty cool. Elon Musk with his team of XAI created Grok. So Grok is also a large language model. And all these large language models rely on some type of data, right? And this data is valuable data that gets put into the data center, and hardware on the back end is basically crunching all those numbers to deliver a more intelligent model. So now if you kind of look at that model, once it's becoming intelligent, as it interacts with more data, you can kind of compact that data and then move into an area of where we have defined our use case, where we've defined our value is at the inference level. And at the inference level, it really is looking at the physical location of where you're deploying that box. So if you look at the physical location, right, the location dictates how you are going to design the box, right? You can't just use a standard laptop or a desktop computer that's sitting on the factory floor. There's so many environmental instabilities that can drive performance issues, that can cause mission critical errors or downtimes that you do not want to have. So one of the biggest performance or attributes that we look into in designing a rugged edge computer kind of break down into performance, right? The energy, the space it's going to take up, and the weight, right? And when you look at performance, it's, okay, what is the technologies out there that deliver performance? What is the power it takes? How do you compact that down into how much energy it's going to be used? How much energy is then tied into how much power is going into the box? And then ultimately, you look at the mechanical design, right? The space of where it's going to be deployed and how much volume it's going to take out is oftentimes space constrained. So, looking at that, right? Once you have the model, you move it out into the physical location at the edge, right? This is sitting closer to these IoT data center points. And this is where the decentralization of the AI is happening, and the model is able to actually interact with that data in real time to deliver these autonomous applications that are continuously going to be brought to market with AGI.
Part of this too is obviously future-proofing your products, making sure that they can remain responsive to the way that edge AI demands are changing in real time. With so many of these deployments still, I don't know that I would say they're like, green thumb levels of new, but they are at the very least still iterative in their approach. A lot of these edge AI deployments are being deployed for the first time at scale, or are being deployed in tandem with other nodes for data capture and other sort of back-end processing infrastructures for particular business use cases to inform operations or to guide, future investments and efficiency tweaks. So with all of that in mind, I'm curious how the demand for rugged edge solutions is changing, right, as edge AI applications advance themselves. Basically, now that we already have some of these deployments in the field, how are you seeing those deployments help guide feedback back to, for example, a Premio to help y'all further define other rugged edge solutions that stay on top of the needs of edge AI that are already deployed in the field?
Yeah, so there are some defining features of the edge. I think some of the key differentiators in kind of what you mentioned is future-proofing our design is really encompassing some of these design principles that we have to almost put into our computer in order to succeed in these harsh environments. So some of those key differentiators we look at the compute specifically is the overall ruggedization of the product. The ruggedization of the product is looking into the thermal dynamics, right? Thermal dynamics include passive or active cooling. We actually specialize in all our products are passively cooled. What that basically means is that there is no active cooling fan used to control the components. It's all thermal dynamics in the sense of heat sinks and moving the heat away from the box. But if you think about that, that's extremely challenging because you have more performance technology happening at the semiconductor level, right? That's the demand that's wanting. They're trying to move all this processing power closer to IoT sensors. But then there's this trade-off of, okay, if you want all this processing power, it's in an environment that is oftentimes not controlled. So how do you balance that? So how we actually do that is we leverage industrial grade components. We actually test with our validation equipment in these extreme environments that can push the product into extremes. So a lot of our products are wide operating temperature. A lot of them can fit in power instabilities for wide power input. Shock and vibration. Those are some key environmental features that the product is going into. Another major thing that ties into GTC and why it's so important is the need for domain-specific architecture for parallel compute. Nvidia provides parallel compute through their GPU technology and their CUDA software. And then what they brought to market with their GPU technology integrated into an embedded compute module, which is their Jetson modules. They've recognized that there is even more of a demand for these challenges. So they've compacted kind of all that performance acceleration into a module to allow the ecosystem to kind of even create more power efficient, more performance acceleration in these AI accelerators that allow to push forward for more applications in these robotics, autonomous type of AI applications. And then I would say another major thing is the certification and supply compliance. Certifications are extremely important. They basically test to a standard, to a quality standard, and this allows the product to actually stand on a foundation of safety and reliability. So everything from UL, everything from these railway safeways, everything from IP rating, all these things allow the product to succeed for reliability.
All right, let's hone in on Premio's presence at GTC 2025. Obviously, y'all are attending. This is a big show for Premio. Not for nothing, y'all are also an Nvidia preferred partner. So there's a lot of layers here as to, why Premio's presence at the show is so critical and, what y'all hope to get out of and help set the tone for at said show. I want to just give our audience a high-level overview here, what are some of the specific products and demos that attendees can expect to see from Premio at GTC? What's going to be on display and why? Let's just give them that high-level brief.
So high-level brief would just be showcasing our rugged edge computers, but more of the technical layer below and kind of breaking down of what that is. It's essentially x86 plus GPU technology, which is broken down into our RCO 6000 series. And that RCO 6000 series is a high-performance AI inference computer because it uses an x86, but also most importantly, GPU acceleration through NVIDIA's RTX professional-grade GPUs that provide the AI acceleration needed for these edge computers. Second major product line of ours that we're showcasing is one of the hottest, newest products from NVIDIA, which is on the embedded compute side, which are their Jetson modules. So as I mentioned before, the challenge and demand that the market kind of needed was they recognized that as you add more GPUs into, or discrete GPUs into an actual box, that creates thermal issues. So what NVIDIA did was kind of created their own module that combines the ARM Cortex, combines their GPU technology and memory. And then from there, system builders like us as Premio can kind of build out our value in the ruggedization, extrapolating all the key IOs that connect to all these different sensors. So we're able to support so many different sensors through our Edge Boost IO technology that's kind of plug and play. And when I talk about IO and sensors, you need to have the IO flexibility, the variety. So everything from USB connections that can be locked, RJ45, M12, and then GSML, right? These are things in our product lines that are unanimous across how we highlight a computer that can actually sit in a ruggedized environment and deploy the performance acceleration needed for AI.
I mentioned this earlier, but Premio is also an NVIDIA preferred partner, right? Can you also just give a brief breakdown for our audience on what that actually means for your product development and how it benefits your customers, right? And will we see any of that preferred partner status kind of on display or informing some of your conversations and some of your own thought leadership at the show this year?
Yeah, great question. So with our partnership with NVIDIA, in terms of preferred, it shows kind of how we tap into the leading technology that's driving forward for compute. Really, I look at it as an ecosystem for success, right? The reason why you need to partner with the semiconductors is they need to also rely on us to deliver the solution for the end customer, right? If you kind of look at what NVIDIA's main business model is, it's essentially fabless designs of their GPU technology that gets broken down into different product series. It can be graphic cards for gaming. It can be professional GPUs for visualization and graphics rendering, and now in their Jetson modules. So essentially kind of what we're going to be there to showcase is how we're tapping into that technology, how we're leveraging that technology, but really showing the hardware in a real world use case, real world use case being how this computer is tapping into an AI application that's using machine learning at the edge, with inference in real time to show the horsepower of why hardware is so important for the training and inference of AI.
Let's start to wrap up by honing in on that training and inference side of AI. Training is obviously huge, right? One of the appeals of edge AI is, well, the intelligence aspect of it, right? That these edge processes are going to be able to adaptively learn from and deploy their learnings from the environment in which they're operating, the data that they're capturing and making sense of and feeding back to the cloud or wherever else, right? But that learning, that training, and that inferencing off of said training looks very different per use case. And the needed architecture to support said inferencing also looks different per use case. I'm curious where you see some of the specific demands of the market, where you see some of the most relevant and defining use cases for edge AI impacting the conversation around needed hardware, needed infrastructure to support training and inferencing for these edge AI computing needs. Where are you seeing some of those connections and how are they informing each other?
I mean, from the geopolitical atmosphere first, in terms of, where AI is, I think that's kind of a big indicator for kind of the general public on why it's so important. So I don't know if you are familiar. Did you hear about the Trump administration with OpenAI and kind of their Stargate background, right? Yeah. So essentially, they're kind of taking that investment, and I think it's about $500 billion, and building out the AI infrastructure foundation, right? So what does the AI infrastructure foundation mean, right? AI infrastructure foundation, in layman's terms, is essentially building out the hardware, the resources to actually train these models. So kind of, I'll take a step back, right? If we kind of go back to where we define the edge continuum and where data is created and where data needs to move through the paradigm of edge compute into kind of the service edge, and then the edge back to the data center, all those key areas have a position and segmentation for some type of compute hardware. Right. And if you look at the data center, I think that is where you're going to have majority of where the AI build out is happening now, because AI is a hot topic. AI is a trend. But most importantly, AI is still in its infancy, although it gets a lot of hype. Infancy in the sense that doesn't mean there's no beautiful applications or productive applications that come from it, but you have to build out the infrastructure and have the resources in play to actually grow these models or grow the intelligence, right? So kind of looking at the infrastructure, data centers are only going to become more prevalent. You're going to have more and more data centers coming up. There's going to be more demand for GPUs to train these deep learning models, these neural network models for the AI model. But that AI build out is not only at the data center, right? That AI build out now shifts out to the user edge. And in the user edge, that is where we kind of call our sandbox. This is where we like to play, because the user edge, as I defined, has very key specific attributes that allow these inferencing applications to succeed. So the user edge is defined in so many different things that are requirements of lower latency, more bandwidth, wireless connectivity, ruggedization, space, right? All these type of requirements need to be taken into consideration in order for industrial rugged edge computers to actually succeed and inference. And how Nvidia is doing that is working with Premio as OEM builders, that we have to leverage their GPU technology. We have to leverage their Jetson modules. And from there, we package that together and sit in the user edge to deliver the autonomy for these new applications. So I think a good way to explain that would be through an example to kind of paint a picture of what that is. So one of our customers is a designer of autonomous forklifts, right? So they have the capability of training their AI models, their software algorithms, to be intelligent with data. So in their software algorithm, they have to train the model to recognize objects in logistic facilities. They have to be able to naturally navigate with sensors, and how that's being done first gets trained with their AI model somewhere in the cloud. But how this works in real world application is, if that forklift had to actually communicate back and forth to the cloud in real time, there would be so many latency issues. There'd be problems on actually navigating that block. So how that actually happens at an inference level is sensors that sit with the forklift actually kind of communicate that data pathway to the box where it has accelerated computing, and it takes that model and it's able to actually process what it sees in real time and navigate through the facility in real time. And that's where the autonomy comes in, and that's where the computer sits.
All right, Dustin, that's our primer for today. But of course, there's plenty more content and discussions and hopefully takeaways that we're going to be learning from GTC 2025 and y'all's presence there. So for those interested in learning more, if they want to follow along with some of your insights at the show, or maybe even meet y'all there and host some discussions, where can listeners go to find more info on your products, your solutions, and the specific demos coming up at GTC 2025?
Yeah, so we're about a month away, and at GTC, we are going to be there. So the best way to kind of interact with our experts is to hit up our event page. Our event page kind of defines everything I discussed about, but more importantly, hones in on some of the key products that leverage GPU technology. And then from there, you can kind of get a sense on some of the applications that are most successful with our rugged edge computing solutions. And then if you're most interested and if you're going to be at GTC yourself, two very key important things is that you can actually schedule a meeting with us. We're going to have our sales and product marketing teams there, so that we can have an open discussion about what are your challenges and what value of our computing solutions we can bring to market. And most importantly, if you use our special link to register for GTC, you will get 20% off. Because we are a preferred partner with Nvidia. So looking forward to meeting new people or existing customers that are going to be going to GTC.
Fantastic, man. Really looking forward to seeing not only the content y'all produce out of the show, but more importantly, the insights, right, that y'all are able to host and what you learn from, all of the really great industry-leading companies and thought leaders that are going to be at the show. So this is primed up to be a good one, but till then, everyone keep your ear to the ground on these major trends shaping edge AI deployments and the needed edge computing infrastructure that is powering them. Because as we can see, this is a nascent environment. It's one that, while it has some wins under its belt, is still evolving rapidly. And so if you think you've got a pulse on the market, by tomorrow, things may have totally flipped on their head. So important to stay up to date. You can find more analysis on these major trends shaping edge computing, edge AI, and the rugged edge on our website, premioinc.com, premioinc.com, and of course, by subscribing to our podcast on Apple Podcasts and Spotify at the Rugged Edge Survival Guide. All right, Dustin Seetoo, thank you so much for your time. Again, folks, we've been chatting with Dustin. He's the VP of Product Marketing at Premio. Dustin, thanks again for your time and looking forward to chatting again more soon.
Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate your time. And make sure to visit us at GTC. Thank you so much.
Absolutely. Going to be a good one. All right, folks, thanks again for tuning in. I'm your host, Daniel Litwin, the voice of B2B. Again, head to our website, premioinc.com for more info about GTC, our products, and our thought leadership. We'll catch you on the next episode of the Rugged Edge Survival Guide.